however you like
Welcome
on that
to
subject of
GoToMeeting.
property. So, I mean,
You are
if
the
it's the
first
first
caller and will be
loan
placed on
that
hold
they
until
bought a
the
house
next
for
caller
close,
arrives.
it becomes the closing date, buying the property, whatever. If you have a client that, has refinance and it's the refinance loan, that thing, I mean, you can use it however you like to use the field. There's only one field. But, I mean, otherwise, we have no idea which of the fields to use.
So we have two data points. We have a date the property was purchased. Yeah. That data field comes from the closing date. So Mary Leo, to your question, the purchase date that you need to fill in, data point D22, comes from the closing date that you entered in CounselorMax. Data point D23, which is the current loan origination date, we haven't heard that there's any issue from anybody about that date. The issue was that the purchase date wasn't showing up.
Correct.
So I'm not sure where the current loan origination date is coming from. It wasn't a topic that came up as an issue, so I personally can't answer that question. But it is two data points that we're asking for, two different ones. Does that clear it up for you, Mary?
Yeah, I mean, your explanation is what I had been. That's what I had thought, and that's what I was doing. But I just, it sounded like I was doing it wrong from the previous conversation. But I'll just keep doing it the way I'm doing it. I think I had it right the first time.
Okay. Yeah, there were people who were just saying we don't know where the purchase date gets put in, so that question came up. And the answer is it goes, whatever your closing date on the property was, that's the purchase date.
Okay.
Okay. If there aren't any other questions around those items, I think we should move ahead.
Okay. All right. There's several people that are not viewing the web page. I will assume you're going to switch over to the right screen. I'm going to start sharing.
How do you switch to the correct screen?
It's going to be a tab on your browser. I haven't started sharing it. When I share it, it's going to be easier for you probably to tell that you're on the right screen. Give me 1 second. Okay, you're going to see a picture of Santorini, Greece, if you're looking at the right screen.
Okay, all right.
You have to click the little camera next to your name.
Yeah, I tried that. But now it's here.
Oh.
I just didn't get any effect when I clicked the little screen.
Okay. You see CounselorMax now?
Yeah.
Is there anybody not seeing CounselorMax? Helen, that doesn't look like you're on the right screen. You can hear me? Yeah, there you go. Okay. All right. What Ellen has explained is that back in the early days of reporting, everybody was using a client ID. CounselorMax is a client management system where you have a single client and the client for life, and then you have you can have many different cases or services provided to that client. And so they might have a single client ID, but the services being provided is what we call a case ID. And you can see up here, we have a client ID. That never changes. But depending on the type of services, in this case, it's a mortgage default or a delinquency, there's a unique case ID number. So we need to be able to report for you guys, based on your specifications, on the services being delivered. So it appears on your report that the client ID is technically the case ID within CounselorMax. All right, and some organizations, my understanding, were reporting prior to starting using CounselorMax. So you have some reported some of these as true client numbers to LA or Empire Justice, whomever, but now we're reporting using a case number. And so want to be able to figure out, cross-reference the two to know what case numbers belong to what client numbers and what client numbers belong to what case numbers. And we can easily do that with a custom report. And that's what I'm going to show you guys today. So if we go over to reporting.
So can I just interrupt you quickly, Greg?
Sure.
I just want to make sure that everybody understands what is being said. So it's essentially when you had to hand fill in your report, some people gave us what the actual client ID from CounselorMax is. But now that CounselorMax is pulling your reports for you, it is pointing to case numbers for client ID, and that's why the numbers are changing. So going forward, you won't have an issue with this, but your existing clients may not show the same client ID from your previous report because of this issue. So Greg's about to show you a quick way to fix it. Is everybody on page 5? Everybody understands what we're doing? I would say yes, since nobody's saying anything.
No one's saying anything. Okay. All right. So, go ahead.
No, I'm good. Go ahead. You're done. I'm done. Go for it.
All right. I think most of you have probably done some reporting, so this shouldn't be news to you. You have two modes in CounselorMax, a client mode and then a global mode. So if I click the global mode, things change. I'm looking at a global calendar. I go to education. I'm looking at global education, things like that. And in reporting, I'm looking at the global report, not client level report. Okay? And here we have a custom report. Our custom report. It's going to ask you want all fields. It works quarterly. It won't necessarily see this unless you're also a works organization or AFFC. We're going to use all fields. Say, okay. And over here are all the different tables or groupings of data into different types of data, trying to keep them kind of similar and together. So the things we're going to be looking at basically for this report are client data points and case data points. So for the client, we want a client number, probably the first name, last name. I'm holding the control key as I select, so that I can select unique fields and not have to select everything. Okay? So once I've selected it, I can hit the single chevron, and it'll bring over those data points that I've selected. We come down to cases. We want the case ID, and we want the service type. And the reason I'm bringing in the service type is there's many different services CounselorMax can track. But this report is based on foreclosure mitigation. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and tell the report that we only want this data for cases that are considered foreclosure type cases. So we're going to bring over those two. So I'm using client ID, first name, last name, certificate, the case number, and then the service type. And you guys can play with this all you want, learn and create other reports. There is a data dictionary under resources that helps you understand what data is where it comes from and such. So once I have the few data points I want for this report, I scroll down, I say submit query. Okay? And I get this graph on the screen, kind of a tabular layout, and I can apply some grouping or filters. Okay? And in this case, I want to filter by the service type of mortgage default, early delinquent. Okay? Now, if I don't want to see that in the report, I can click this button and not see that field. It's still going to use it to filter the data, but I'm not going to see it in my output. Okay? I'm going to save the report. I'm going to call it note. On what the description of the report is. Okay. Okay. That's the name of the report that's going to show up on the list of conflict reports created. Okay. Show the report. Okay. So here was the client ID, and here was the case ID. Okay, and they're all the service types for mortgage default. What we can do is export this to Excel. Okay, I can insert a column here. Take this column. Familiar with Excel and get to there. It's not going to do it. I'm going to cut and paste. Select. Control D. Okay. So now we've got our case numbers and our client numbers. Okay, and we can, if you know one, you can look at the others. You could do a Control F for find. Okay, and type in any particular number. And it's going to find it whatever column it's in. So if you're looking for a particular case number or client number, that's a quick way to do it. You want to clean the look of this up. We're going to adjust all our columns, turn off word wrap. Okay, that's a little easier to read. You can still adjust and all this and everything. So that's a down and dirty way to do it. Yeah, also, when you're looking at your actual printout report, you could do the Control F here also. Control F. Brings up a find box. Type in a number. And there aren't any. There's one that starts with 854. It's highlighted or has 854 in it, so it's highlighted here. Now, when I created the report, I could have put the case number right after the client number. If that is something that would make it easier for you so that you have them automatically together. You want me to redo that and show you how? So if I would have gone with the client number first, then a case number, and we only want that for particular service type, and then put the client's name, street address. It's a slightly different version of the report. Query. Okay. We want the service types to be mortgage default purchase delinquency. We don't want to see them. We want the client ID in order. Show the report. Okay. This is the client number. See, here's an example. This client number 8 has 2 different cases, both foreclosure, because that was our service type. So they have 2 different, but with 2 different case numbers. So this is the old client ID number that you had been reporting, and now you're going to be reporting by case number. So if you'd rather have this, well, now that you've created the report, you can go back at any time and get rid of the sorting on here, and let's say sort by case number. are in numerical order, lowest to highest, okay? And we can then cross-reference what the page number is. So depending on which one. So you can either keep these reports, run it when you need it, do the cross-reference, you can dump it to Excel, you can sort it, manipulate it, do all kinds of things with it. You have only the name and first name and last name, adequate to do, that's all you have to do. But it's a way for you to say, okay, these are the client numbers that we had been reported, these are all our clients in the system. We didn't add any date fields. You could. Okay. So this is just anybody in your system that was a foreclosure litigation, foreclosure mortgage vulnerability, I should use the correct term, client. So, and forever. Okay. This is their client ID, and this is a different case ID. Okay. For those clients. Is this helpful? Sure.
Hi. So I'm assuming that this is a workaround because case number couldn't have been added to the HOPP report template that CounselorMax designed. Is that why we're doing that?
Well, we didn't design it. We built it to your specs, and your
Okay.
specs called for a unique ID for the services provided, called a client ID. But in CounselorMax, that's the equivalent of a case ID. And as Ellie said, those that were manually reporting were using the client ID, where once you start automating, we're using the case ID because that's the data that represents those services provided to the client. Okay. And then Ellie, do they need to then correct the record at client ID?
Right.
This is Alex.
And that's why we're showing you this quick way to look up what the case number what your client ID should be, because it should be the case number. And then going forward, your report is always going to pull the case number. So it's only the people that you reported previously to being able to pull the report directly out of CounselorMax.
So going forward, when I pull a HOPP report later in the program here, it's going to automatically pull the case number. It'll correct it.
Yeah, this is simply to provide me, this is Alex, with a key, so I can match up those clients who have, and this is going to get confusing, but the client ID, which needs to be the case number, so I can rectify those numbers. So going forward, it'll make things much easier, and we can match up all those previously reported records. Does that make sense?
Okay, so the old one. So I'm just doing this basically one time to correct the case ID client number issue.
Correct. And I can send everybody on this call, if this would be helpful, a listing of all the client IDs that we currently have from you. So you can see, or if you want to send me the key, whichever is easiest for you. Yeah, I'm happy to do that if it's helpful.
Okay.
But yes, this is a one-time thing.
Yes, Mary, the answer to your is yes. Going forward, new clients that you're putting in and reporting to us are fine. It's only the people that you reported to us before you were able to pull directly from CounselorMax.
Got it. Thank you. I have a question. I have a person who contacted me months ago and was going to be a client and was in the system. And I did counsel him at that time, and then he told me he no longer needed my help. So I closed out his CounselorMax file. He is now contacting me again, and I brought him on as a client again, which means he's going to have a new case number. But technically, I can only count him to one. So which number am I supposed to use, the current case number or the previous case number? I would think I would continue to use the previous case number,
Yeah.
and I would have to manually correct that each time I report on him.
How far have you gotten with him since he came back?
I've had a second counseling session with him and submitted a new application on his behalf.
Okay. Because you couldn't reactivate the case. Did you probably close it as withdrew from counseling? Is that how you're? Yeah. You could have reactivated that case. But
Okay.
since you're providing the services in a new case, the specification says they want them to be reported is the ID that represents the service that's being delivered. And in your case, it's the new case. So I don't know how you guys are going to handle the previous case. I don't know. I mean, don't sometimes come back and you have a new case number?
Right, but if we
were 61.
Yeah, but Craig, we've
Yeah.
instructed them. We've instructed them to use the same number, that they can't count somebody 2 different times. So that's why she's asking this question.
Oh, okay.
So I think that the answer that Greg just gave, though, actually that you can reactivate the case.
Yes.
I think that's probably the best thing for you to do to keep you from having to pull your hair out trying to remember which case number did I already report.
Okay.
What?
But it's I've already put it in again. So then I would have to close the new case number in order to reactivate the old case number. Which is very messy in the system.
What
If you want, well, just be mindful too that you're also, if you're reporting for NFSP, that's going to cause an issue with NFSP. Right.
That's what I was going to say. You would only reactivate a case if they pull out before conclusion, okay, or they drop out, I should say. Once the case is resolved, either successfully or unsuccessfully, then a new case has to be created, or you're going to have all kinds of problems with your HUD report and your NFSP report.
Wait a minute. Somebody puts on your HOPP report to be on your NFSP report?
I don't know. I have no idea how you guys manage all that. I'm just saying.
Only appear on one report.
Okay. Normally, once the case is resolved, you don't reactivate it.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. This is Helen in Utica. Greg, I was just going to suggest one thing before this portion of this conversation even started. You might want to show these folks how to add the case start date to this report. It will be helpful for them if they do have a customer with multiple cases or a customer with multiple customer IDs, which is an error, but it does happen. But it will help them decipher without having to spend a lot of time going back to the CounselorMax to figure out which case they're talking about. So I think if you took the basic report that you did and added case start date, you can have a client who may have come in 2009 and they're back in 2012, and it will help them understand.
Well, the intake date should be the same as the start date.
Well, the intake date is not always the same as the case start date.
Can you let us know what the case start date is?
What
is that? No. So what does that indicate? I'm sorry. Greg,
Well,
what does that
first,
indicate?
on the report that you just had, you had the same name with 2 cases.
But is the start date something that is entered or is stamped by the system?
It's stamped by the system.
So that really, because the start date may be whenever the case was entered into the system. And that may not necessarily be accurate.
I'm not sure who's talking. Is that right?
This is Gail from the Center for New York City Neighborhood.
All right. Well, this is just a CounselorMax issue I'm trying to point out, and I think Greg understands the use of case start date. It will just help the counselors that are trying to decipher these reports if that is sitting there in front of them when this report comes out. I have to tell you, this is Ellie. I am not a CounselorMax user. I'm new to it, and I am completely and totally lost as to what's being talked about right now.
Okay. We talked about the client having a single number, but there could be multiple cases. Okay? Right? All right. What Helen is saying that if there is a date and time stamp to when the case was created.
Okay.
Okay. So if I would go and add created. I also have not only the client number, the case number, I have the date the case created. Okay,
Yeah,
so if there are multiple.
Can you sort that by last name or something?
Sure.
So they can see. Right, if you look at John Appleton. Go down to John Appleton. There's an example of one customer that has two cases. And I know, I work on this system all the time. I know it's very beneficial to me to be able to look and see, oh, we've got two cases. Okay, I'm talking about the 2013 model. And that's the case ID that I have to have to convert. And sometimes it's very common that a counselor will have John Appleton in there with two entirely different client IDs because they set them up twice. It's common. It should be that way.
Well, I think it's, yeah. And if you do get a notice that the client already exists, if she types in the same name or the same address, you could accept and go on and keep the record. But there is a way to delete. You have to be an admin, like that, but you can delete a client, or a duplicate. Now, it'll be gone forever if you do it from a particular screen, but I'm just saying that there is a way to maintain, if there is a duplicate.
What is the correct way to assign the same service to one client a second time?
Okay,
So
the
when you
first
quote,
page,
like if the first time John came in, we created a new file for him, completed foreclosure counseling in '09, he's come in again in 2013. What's the correct way to get the same service again?
look up John and just start a new case.
So it's not a new client, you pull up John
No.
and
One client in any case. That's the true way to use it.
okay.
But as Helen said, it happens that sometimes names get in there twice, and if you converted from NSTEM, which is now many years out, and I don't know that that would be an issue, NSTEM didn't work that way, so some older legacy clients could be in there twice. But current cases shouldn't be that way. I mean, you can even add the client, the date the client record was created. So if in this case there were two, I can go back and add. Oh shoot! Didn't want to do that. Trying to remember again. Name I gave it.
Foreclosure.
Mortgage default. So I didn't save. Please letting me go back. I'm at all fields. So I can add a client created, and then we're going to go back and add again a case created.
Anybody using this should notice that those two fields, one is under the client section, one is under the case section.
Right. So now for Appleton, we can see that one has the same client. Okay. So you can see that the client creating date is the same, the case date is different. I'm trying to find one where we have duplicate with different client IDs the same. There's got to be something. here's an example with Jose. Same person, basically the same address, okay? But we have two different client creation dates back in 06 and then in 08, and then two different case dates. So if a client does end up getting entered the second time or third time or whatever, you know, if you add the client date created to your report, you'll know probably want to use the most recent one. Or the typical way is to look at the most recent case date, and then you can go back to, okay, that was the most recent client record. That's the one that's attached to the services they provided that we're reading reports on. Does that help, Helen? I think others might be confused.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was not my question. I'm just aware that most of the cases get created under the date. So the client, another common scenario where a client gets created twice is if their address changes. Whoever's been putting data doesn't realize that it's
Right. Well, there's an example. I mean, anybody that does, and I don't know if any of these organizations do, let's say home ownership activity. Obviously, when they bought the house, they might have been in an apartment, you know, renting somewhere else or whatever, and then they buy a home. Instead of when they come back in for new services, instead of updating the address, they create a new record. Okay. And that's how sometimes that happens.
So I just want to get back to Michelle, because I think we got a little into the weeds there, to find out if Michelle has had her question answered.
I think as well as it can be answered.
Okay. And, you know, I just want to clarify for people that as far as HOPP is concerned, you can report HOPP clients. If you're spending funding from HOPP on a client, you can report them, no matter who else you're reporting to, just so that you know. I can't speak for what NFMC or HUD requires, although I know they're pretty persnickety about that. But the AG does want to see any client that you're spending any kind of HOPP money on.
Are there funds involved in this? I mean, in other words, are they getting reimbursed for the services through the HOPP program?
Not reimbursed, but no. I mean, it's a grant and it's paid out twice. I'm not sure. You mean like do they have to prove work that they've done?
No, for providing the services. I mean, so are the records getting tagged that the HOPP grant funds are going to use to provide services for these clients? Or is it just a grant to the general operating budget?
No, it's per client.
Per client, okay. So no, you couldn't double dip and report. You could report on the HUD in general activity, you can't bill it to HUD. The same with NFMC, as far as I know.
Right.
I don't know who answered that question, but it's not being paid per client. There's not a standard fee per client that's being paid.
No, this is fair. What I'm saying is, if I charge a client to HOPP, that client, I'm reporting on that client and that activity. It's not for a general operation at the housing council. Like that same client can appear on the NFMC report.
I understand. Okay.
Some funding sources are just don't ask for a certain amount of clients. They just say, we're funding your program and not asking for specific activity.
So if there aren't any other questions, I guess we can close this up. Okay, so those of you who are on the call, we'll be letting you know within the next 24 hours when your report is going to be due. But it will be due very soon. So be ready. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, just for those that are in, so I think they've already gone, Ellie. Still on, Ellie?
I'm here.
Okay, under resources, job aids is where they're going to find the data dictionary, and that is all the different fields available for custom recording. I had meant to point that out earlier.
Okay.
Hold on, it's opening. It's opening very slowly, but it's opening. Okay. And it's broken up here into all fields, NFSC specific or neighborhoods, okay? And it's just the different data points, where you, what table you find them in, like where they appear on the screen, you can kind of back reference or whatever, if there's particular information you're trying to look for. That's
So
all.
before you close that, don't close that. Show me where origination date is.
Loan origination or the one we're using for the purchase?
Well, we need, I'm asking this because we need both of those data points. We need the purchase, the original purchase date, and the origination date of the current mortgage. They aren't always going to be the same.
Right. So the property. What am I in? I'm in all.
Is it possible to sort by the field name, perhaps, or would it be under a different title?
Oh, I was looking for a particular, what the
I
liability
see.
for Bolt Trump. See, that might be a field that is unique for you guys as far as reporting, and it may not be in the data dictionary as far as custom reporting is. And that's what I'm trying to determine.
Oh,
NFSC, for NFSC, so yours are basically,